one of these pins here starts off with having a C-clip. We want to make sure that those are properly installed. We also want to make sure that there's no missing chunks out of the tires. Even if the tread is worn down, that's okay as long as the equipment is level and provides good stability. A couple other things we want to check. We want to make sure that the battery is charged enough for our operation. Go ahead and open it up. And even if the batteries are indicating low, one of the things is if it's low on battery fluid, it won't hold a full charge. So it might indicate that it's fully charged, but it's really only at about 50% capacity. So you want to double check and make sure that they're topped off with distilled water. We also want to make sure that all the battery terminals are properly secured and connected. There's not an excessive amount of corrosion on them. We also want to make sure that the circuit breaker that's here is still intact. And all the wires in this area are secured where they're supposed to be going. Please don't take it, yank, and put too much pressure on them because we don't want to make something loose that's not. After we've taken a check at the batteries, I'm going to go ahead and move over. There's not much to see in here, but if we have to, there are control panels and control valves. We want to make sure that those are not leaking any fluid at all. If they are not, make sure that the electrical connectors are connected. Check the back tire, make sure it's not missing any chunks or anything out of it. Make sure that the cotter pins are installed, torque stripe is there. And once again, make sure that these C-clips are installed on this side. Notice the middle ones have bolts that go all the way through. We want to make sure that they're installed and the nuts are tight. As we're coming around, we're making sure that the railings are nice and straight and they're not going to fall off while we're operating. Make sure all the nuts and bolts are nice and tight. When we come to this side, we're going to make sure that there's no pinched hoses or anything like that that's immediately visible to us. A couple of them happen to have plastic spacers between them so that it's not metal-to-metal contact. Come around, checking the other tires, making sure it's not missing any chunks out of it. We can pop open this panel and make sure that these control valves are clean, not leaking, and the electrical connectors are still connected. Then pop open this panel, and we want to make sure that the hydraulic pump is not leaking. Make sure that the motor, the wires are connected and secured properly, and make sure that the hydraulic level tank is between its minimum and its maximum. Make sure that the last tire is in good solid condition. And then anytime we're operating equipment, we want to make sure that it operates and functions properly. So we want to make sure everything functions properly at the base. In order to do that, we want to make sure that our selector switch is selected to the right to indicate that we want to operate from the base station down here. Anytime we want to make a movement, we need to press the power button and then either up or down. Notice that when we go down, you get the audible beep for the security warning to alert others around. So let's go ahead and raise the lift up. About 10 feet or so in the air, enough that it separates everything so you can kind of get an idea of what's there. You do have a level sensor that's down here that if it gets out of level, it's going to freeze the equipment. We also have the horn down here. We want to make sure that the hoses that are going to the cylinder are intact and not leaking while it's up. And make sure any of the hoses or wires that are going up to the top don't look like they're getting pinched or binded in any sort of way. The other thing that we really want to make sure is we don't want anybody stuck up in the air, not able to get down. So before we go up in it, we want to make sure that we test the emergency release by simply pulling it out and making sure the hydraulic fluid leads off and the scissor comes back to normal level. Once we know that that operates, we'll start. Leave about 6 feet up there. Press the power button and make sure it lowers back down. That basically completes all the function checks of everything on the ground. We can then switch it over to make sure the control is all the way to the left, and we have controls up in the basket. And then we can walk around, go up, and we'll test all the controls from the basket as well. If you're operating your scissor boom for the first time, you always want to take the time to go through and make sure that you read the operator's manual so that you know the full operation and limitations of the equipment. In all of our scissor lifts and all of our booms, we have special cases that are weather protected that has the operator's manual inside. Take the time to go ahead and read it. But as a general function, anytime you're going to start using the scissor lift, We've already done the walk around on the bottom to make sure everything is safe and secure. Once we find the position that we're going to be in and our overhead space is clear, we want to make sure that the emergency stop switch is up. And then we want to make sure that, especially with this scissor lift, it's equipped with additional outriggers. Because it's very narrow. So in order to make sure that those are fully extended and that the scissor is on a level surface, we'll make sure that we press down on the outrigger button at the same time that we squeeze the trigger and pull the handle to the back. You'll start to hear the outriggers go out, and then the platform will start to move around. We want to hold down the buttons, the trigger, and the handle until the platform stops moving and there's a loud, solid, audible beep. That indicates that the scissor is now stable and level. At that point in time, if we'd like to go up in the air, we've got two functions. We have the drive function on the right and the raise function on the left. We've got 6 lines indicating that we have a full charge on the battery. We want to go up in the air now that our outriggers are extended. We also have 4 green lights on, showing that they are extended. We want to click the raise button. At that point, we can squeeze the trigger, and it's proportional. If you push it forward a little bit, it'll go up slowly. If you push it forward a lot of it, it'll go up faster. Continue to hold it until you're up to the height that you prefer. And then you come back to center and you let go. You can then start to perform your work. If you want to drive, remember that your outriggers are down, you're not going to be able to drive. We suggest only driving if you're on a smooth, flat surface. If you're on any kind of unimproved surface, outriggers must be out, out, and out. When you're ready to come back down, notice there's no function in the controls. That's because it doesn't know if we want to drive or raise and lower. So we want to make sure that we select raise and lower, pull the trigger, and then remove it back. Coming down is not as proportional, it's not as controlled, so don't be scared when it jerks around. Once we're ready to raise the outriggers back up, just press the button, squeeze the trigger, push the handle forward. The platform will begin to move as the outriggers come back up and it comes back to its natural surface. Hold it down. There is no beep or indication that they're fully retracted, but it will stop moving. At that point, we can then select the drive feature. We always have to squeeze the trigger. There are 2 buttons on the top of the joystick. The left button turns the wheels to the left, the right button turns the wheels to the right. Always keep in mind, because the joystick is movable, it can be facing in different directions. Make sure you know which direction you're going. If you have to, just slightly glance over the edge and take a look at where your tires are. So you can turn it to the right or the left. Now you can turn and move at the same time. We move forward by pushing the joystick in the forward direction. And anytime between movements, a lot of times it might reset if you stop moving for a second. So make sure that it's selected. It'll show a little circle over the type of movement that you're going to be doing. So then we can squeeze the trigger and push forward, and it will begin to drive forward. You can also tap the button left and right. And as you can see, we can start to turn left and turn right. Now the other thing is, if we want to, now that we don't have outriggers out, we're on a fairly level surface, we can push the raise and extend button. We can raise up into the air. We're only going to take it up about 10-15 feet. Bring it to a stop. And then you can select the drive function, which will allow us to move while we're up in the air. But the amount of movement and the speed at which it moves is drastically reduced. So the higher up you go, the slower it will move to maintain its stability. When you're ready to go back down, simply press the down button and then again to go back down. It's always good to check it. It's always good to check and make sure that all these functions work before you get all the way up in the air. When you're done, make sure that you hit the emergency stop button and turn the switch off so that the batteries don't